So we already made this image a smart layer, and I'm going to change to my move tool just to make sure I don't make any mistakes. And what I want to do now is talk to you guys about how you can make adjustments with the colors. And you'll remember that when we did the ballerina project, that we changed the colors of the dress. We just sort of painted, and then we adjusted with hue and saturation. Well, we're going to do the same thing now, but because we're doing it on a smart layer, we are going to get super powerful control. We're going to go to Image, Adjustments, Hue and Saturation, the exact same tool that we used before. Two ways that we're leveling up right now. The first is that we're doing it on a smart object. So check it out. It shows up under here in the Smart Filters options so that I can always come back and retweak these settings. So this is non-destructive. I can come back in, make my changes, undo my changes, and adjust my changes easily at any time in the future. Another tip that I want to give you is that you can simply adjust the hue and saturation uniformly across the whole image. But another way to work is that you can actually adjust them strictly by color channel. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to look at the reds in this image. And I'm going to just sort of dial it back and forth because it's definitely more red. So I'm going to shift that red up a little bit and then adjust the saturation back and forth a little. And man, just with this, I'm getting pretty darn close. You know, one thing I see that's throwing this image off is that the color of even the lion's mane is different up here than it is down there. So we're not going to get this perfect, but we can get it pretty close and pretty believable. I'm going to go into the next channel, yellows, and I'll adjust things up and down. And again, I'm not looking at these numbers or where the slider is because I don't care about that. What I care about is how good the image looks. So I'm really focusing basically right here where these two sets of the hair are touching, and I'm just trying to get it to really sort of match color-wise. You know, it's so strange because here I feel like it's matching almost perfectly right here in the middle, but then it seems like it's not matching right here. And it's definitely not matching down here. So again, the lion's mane seems to have a little bit more variety maybe than this particular image does, but we'll do some tricks to sort of blend it all in just a little bit, and it's not going to matter that much. I did want to make sure that I taught you this trick, however, that we have, number one, we've applied image adjustments to a smart object, and that allows us to, let's go ahead and click OK. And watch, when I double click here, it brings it back up. If I go to my reds, there's the settings that I had. There's my yellows. I can change it again. This is completely non-destructive. Any setting that I make, I can come back in and change it a little bit and just get it perfect. But I think I'm doing pretty good. I'm going to call that good enough because we can always come back in after we do our blending. If it still doesn't feel right, then we'll come back and really perfect it using this smart adjustment. So don't forget you can change them by channels, and also don't forget to use smart objects whenever possible. It's pretty much always the smartest way to work. Let's also explore really quick what happens if we add another adjustments. I'm going to go to Image Adjustment, and let's use Brightness Contrast this time. In here, I'm just going to kind of adjust it again and see, it's really not doing anything that I am crazy about. You know, it all depends too on the color settings that you use, how it should work. And I'm really not doing a whole lot to this image. So I'm going to just tell it okay there. But I did want to point out that now we can see that in our layers panel that we have two options, multiple options that we can use. So think of all of the power that we have. First of all, the smart filter, we know we can paint it in and paint it out. Second of all, we know that we can also adjust the blending mode of the filters on the image, and sometimes that will change things a lot. We also know that we can double click on these options like hue and saturation, and you'll get this message, by the way, when they're stacked, because what it's saying is that it's going to hide the brightness and contrast because it's above our hue and saturation layer. So it kind of hides that for a second so that we can work without being influenced improperly by this particular layer here. But we can come back in and make any changes that we need. And also with hue and saturation, you can even narrow it down to the specific channel. This is really great, for example, when you have a photograph outside and the image looks great, but the sky is just, there's not a lot of color in it. Sometimes I just come in and just grab my blues and cyans and I start pushing them up a little bit, and that makes the sky pop without affecting the other parts of my image. So powerful ways to work. We're covering things that we've already talked about, but as you can see, we're really leveling it up. But at this point, I think I've got a pretty good effect on my mane and the hair. And again, I'm not going to worry too much about it now because I want to be able to come back to this at the end when all of my blending is done, because that in itself is going to change the way I have to think about the composition.